what's the importance of nurturing and maintaining a healthy brain health, and how does this overall contribute to the cognitive function by a human?
So, if there's four main cognitive domains. There's executive function, prefrontal cortex, decision making, reasoning, education, and learning. There's processing speed. How fast, if from when I see something or hear something or something I feel a touch, can I react? Do I need to get out of the way? Do I need to respond if somebody talks to me? Do I have to sit there and think about it for 2 minutes, or can I come up with something to say right away? If I'm driving and I see that the traffic light has changed, how fast can I put my foot off of the gas and put it on the brake? So that's the processing speed. The third is attention span, and there's four different types of attention, but it's being able to focus on something and maybe block out other things or switch on between two things rather quickly. And then the fourth is memory. And when it comes to like brain health, we're usually talking about short-term memory or working memory, as they call it. So those are the four things we work on, and they will all naturally decline with age because, like I said, we get cells that are dying and they don't get replaced nearly as fast or as at all. But we can grow new synapses in the brain, new neural connections, even when we're older. So, if people don't do anything, just like with their physical body, if they don't use their brain, they're not challenging themselves by learning new things or just by doing drills to keep themselves sharp and their reflexes, quicker, that they'll go into cognitive decline. Some of it is natural, but then of course some can go into lead to dementia. There's various stages. Alzheimer's disease is a form of dementia. So Alzheimer's and dementia are the same thing, but Alzheimer's is very specific. There's others. There's Lewy body dementia. Parkinson's disease is actually a form of dementia, believe it or not. It's not a neuromuscular disease like MS is.
Okay.
So obviously, one is a medical condition, but we can do things that help our regular cognition or just our everyday staying sharp.
Mhm.
And some of that helps prevent or delay the onset of some of the serious dementias as well.
As you rightly mentioned, some of these aspects are age related, which are have to occur naturally with some of the strength training and cognitive skills training. We can sort of de-accelerate that degeneration that's happening. But how can somebody really differentiate between the age related decline and some serious cognitive decline? What are those red flags one should be in constant awareness of?
And I hear that question all the time, Pulkit. So very astute of you to ask. That's probably one my biggest question that I hear. A lot of times, and probably the best example I hear, the most common, is they can't find their car keys. They're like, oh, I normally set them on the table right inside the door. I put them on a key hook inside the door, and they're not there. Where did I put them? Well, most likely you brought them into the bedroom and you put them on the dresser there when you were changing your clothes. You still had them in your hand, or you may find them in your coat pocket or your pants pocket, or a woman may find them in her purse. And they're like, well, that's not where you normally put them, but it's logical for those to be there because you got out of the car, you opened the door, and you just stuck them in your pocket because you were trying, you had something in your hands or whatever.
Mhm.
That's very common. You put down your phone. It's in the other room. I left it in the other room. Where's my phone? You have to look around for it because it's not top of mind. You're not like focused on it. Okay, I'm setting my phone down here so you don't imprint it into your memory. You're just like, oh, I'm doing something. I just set it down because you're distracted with something else. The issues, from what I have heard from doctors, is and brain health people specifically, is you can't find your car keys. Well, you find them in the refrigerator, or you find them in the cupboard where the dishes are, or something like that where they should not be. I mean, if they're in your pocket, that's pretty normal and that can be expected. But if you're finding your car keys in the refrigerator, there's a problem. That's what they told me. You shouldn't be opening the refrigerator and putting your car keys in. That's a mental problem. Maybe you've left them in your car and your car is still running in the driveway. You forgot to turn off the car and take the keys out. You just put it in park. You got out and you went into the house and the car is still running in the driveway. That's a problem. So these type of things, not just these simple little, where did I set that down, but it's another level of that shouldn't happen type of thing.
Thanks
Now,
a
of
lot.
course, there's other examples, but those are the best ones to give,
You know,
when,
I guess
yeah.
that's the apt example that you have given, because a lot of youth would be relating to this. Otherwise, they all would be like, okay, I'm suffering from dementia. I need to be, taken care of, because
Every time
all do this.
every time somebody misplaces their car keys, they're like, "Oh, I have dementia, I'm getting Alzheimer's." I'm like, "No, you're not. No, you're not." Yeah. So like I said, that's the most common thing I hear is, "Oh, I can't find my wallet or my car keys
Yep,
or
yep.
my phone."
It just happened with me recently as well, where I keep switching between the two cars that are at home. One is where I have to turn the key for the ignition, and the other one is a button press. So with the button press one, you have to press the button even to switch it off. Now, as a regular habit, I have the habit of turning the key to switch it on, switch it off. And when I'm sitting in the button press car, I often once or twice I've forgotten to turn it off. And once I get out of the car, I hear the engine running, and I'm like, okay, I've not turned off the car. I have to go back and turn off the car. So it happened recently as well.
But that's more because you have two different systems, and sometimes you just kind of forget which one you need to do. But
Yep.
yeah, no, yeah, I wouldn't consider that dementia either yet, Pulkit. So you're good there.
Yeah, thank God. So, what are some of the lifestyle factors or habits that seniors should prioritize to prevent the onset of dementia or cognitive decline? What could be those lifestyle habits, out there?
Certainly. So, really, the biggest one is exercise. One of the reasons is it increases the blood flow, get the blood pumping. It increases the blood flow to the brain,
Mhm.
which research has found just even recently. The research hasn't been that great they haven't found a lot of things that help. That's why there's no cure and why dementia is it's the seventh biggest killer in the world, believe it or not.
Okay.
It's really big, but exercise increases the blood flow to the brain. It helps wash away the plaque. They call it amyloid plaque, and there's another thing called tau tangles, little bodies that get in between the synapses or go into the synapses and clog the nerves from talking to each other. So it's like a little block. So the signals don't travel from one nerve ending to the other to get to where they need to be. That's why all of a sudden you start losing memories and things. If you have strong memories, there's multiple pathways of the nerves that reach. But if it's so, sometimes even if some of them are blocked, you can still remember. And that's why usually you can remember things back to your childhood better than you can remember something that happened yesterday,
Yep.
especially with older folks. That's why the short-term memory, the working memory is what's most affected. But so exercise is number one. Your diet, nutrition is really like number two. The Mediterranean diet, and there's even one called the MIND diet, MIND, that's been really proven to help people, kind of avoid cognitive aging. Getting high quality sleep, getting enough good sleep is very, very important for cognitive health. They show that not sleeping well has a huge impact on your overall health, but especially brain health. Your cognition can actually fluctuate from day to day, just like your body. Some days you feel rested and feel really good, other days not so much. Same way, actually, with your brain. Some days your memory is sharper than others, and it can all depend on how much sleep. Fourth is like stress. If you're really stressed out, it harms your brain and affects your performance mentally and physically. Like another couple of things that's really recommended is to socialize. I talked about the isolation.
Mhm.
When people have bad balance, they stay indoors. Well, that fuels depression. It also can speed up dementia, the decline, or maybe even mean the difference between getting dementia and not getting dementia. Now, that may not be, there's the evidence isn't ultra strong on being able to prevent dementia through doing any specific things, but it can be slowed if people even have early dementia. There's things they can do to slow how quickly they decline, which is it's as good as it gets. It's like I have it, but I want to maintain as much cognition as I can for as long as I can. So socializing with people, and then learning new things, novelty, they call it. So whether that's reading, some really good things is learning new skills, knitting, crocheting, sewing, things where you have to do physical and mental. So you're thinking about, okay, I have to do this certain pattern, this type of thing. That's really big with brain health. A lot of the brain health training that we do for cognition, in fact, almost all of it is dual tasking. It combines a cognitive drill with a physical exercise. So you need to be moving your body and challenging your brain at the same time. Really strengthens the neural connections between your body and the different regions of your brain. And some of them are done verbally, where maybe I'm giving you math problems while you're doing an exercise. You're marching in place and you're doing biceps curls, or you're squatting, and I give you math problems to do. I tell you one time, another time we'll go through the list and I have flashcards. And then so it's visual. So I'm showing you the card, not saying anything. You still have to give me the answer because we're hitting different parts of the brain. So the visual part is the occipital lobe. The audio part, when you hear me talking, is the temporal lobes on the side of the brain.
Mhm.
So you're
Mhm.
working on different types. There's different types of drills you can do to hit different parts of the brain as well, and to challenge attention span, memory, processing speed, and executive function as well. So maybe it's word lists. I give you some words to repeat back to me while you're exercising. You can make them harder or easier. Maybe I'm giving you animals and I'm giving them in alphabetical order. Antelope, a bee, bobcat, a cat, a dog, elephant. So I'm giving, so it's easier to recall because it's A, B, C, D, and E. But you
Mhm.
can make the words very abstract, and they can and make the words harder and longer as somebody to challenge somebody if they're good at the simple ones. So word lists, and then maybe you give them those, and then you give them a second word list, and they repeat those back while they're still doing the exercise. Then they have to come back and give you the first list without you reminding them. So it's delayed recall. And then maybe you give them a third word list to repeat to you. Then they have to go back and give you the first two word lists without you giving them any hints. So that's a way to work on memory, but it's usually always a cognitive drill with a physical drill at the same time. Sometimes the cognitive drill can be physical. Like I said, sewing, dancing is great, especially when it's very choreographed and they have to do certain number of steps one way and then turn and all of that.
Yeah.
That is considered very good for the brain. Playing tennis or ping pong, where the ball is moving and you have to calculate and you have to move your body and see where and swing with the racket and have the eye hand coordination.
Mhm.
Those are all very good as well for building brain health.
Something I have heard a lot of experts talk about is having a good sleep. And correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, that a good sleep is a luxury that even the richest cannot afford. So I have seen a lot of, the richest of riches struggling with having a good sleep. They're always stressed, they're always anxious. And I believe that's the starting point for a lot of cognitive decline that happens. Rest, yes, our lifestyle and a lot of other factors contribute towards it. But I guess this gives the, start to the whole thing, and it just ensues after that.
It is huge. From what I have learned and read, is that the sleep time really helps the brain recover. It helps it get rid of some of the bad things in it. The waste helps get new, it's where it clears out the bad stuff from the pathways, from the cells and all of that. So you're kind of starting fresh in the morning. And if you're
Yep.
not, all this bad stuff builds up in the brain, kind of on a physiological level. Plus, when you're tired, you just know how much it affects your life. A night when you've slept good, the next day, wow, everything just goes so much better in
Yes.
your life. It's like it's easier to think, you're in a better mood. When you're tired, I'm crabby. Ask my wife. If I didn't get a good night's sleep, I'm just not that pleasant to be around, and then that fuels, like you said, all of the bad things that lead to decline in brain health. You're not as social when you don't feel good. You just kind of want to mope around yourself. You probably aren't going to eat as well. You're not going to exercise if you feel bad. When you're not feeling good, you're like, I don't want to go to the gym or do hard physical stuff either. I would just want to take a nap and get sleep. So I really agree that a lot of the cognitive health is predicated on getting good night's sleep, and a bad night's sleep is very damaging to your cognitive health.
Thanks. And Jeff, I would like to wrap up this podcast with one final question to you. And that's for our listeners who may be caregivers or family members of seniors. So what advice do you have for, the family members or the caregivers for supporting their, loved ones' cognitive health and well-being?
It's a really tough job. There's in the United States alone, there's over 6 million people with Alzheimer's, and there's like 11 million caregivers because it usually takes a couple of family members to really help. So a lot of people are affected by this. So recognizing maybe an early decline is huge. If you suspect that your loved one, your parents or grandparents, may have an issue, seeing if you can get them tested. And because early prevention can really slow the progression.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that will make life for you easier too,
Yep.
because the caregivers are, it's even harder on caregivers. I heard a lady just talking about it, and her parents died of Alzheimer's, and it was just so hard on her life to care for them and to see them decline. So a big part is early diagnosis if you suspect. Keep them active and engaged with the family and their friends as much as possible. Try to include them. Don't just let them sit alone because that will just make the deterioration go quicker. Try to keep them as active as you can. There is help out there. In the United States, the Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 support line staffed by nurses to actually take calls from caregivers to just say, okay, they're doing this. What should I do? And because I just met last week with a lady from the Alzheimer's Association, and she said it's big. She goes, sometimes it's just a shoulder to cry on because things are going so bad at the home with somebody that's in severe dementia, that sometimes the caregiver just needs to be able to talk to somebody because they're in such a bad place. It's so hard on them. One of the problems with dementia and Alzheimer's is the loss of emotional regulation. So
Mhm.
they lash out, they get angry, they're not able to control their emotions. So usually the emotions that come through are anger, maybe yelling at you, blaming you, accusing you of things that you didn't do. They're not in their right mind, but it doesn't make it any easier hearing it. To have your loved one that you're working really hard to take care of yelling at you for no reason. So what happens is people pull back. Oh, it's a natural instinct. So you're less likely to want to spend time with them. Friends are going to be less likely to see them, want to come over and visit if they're going to be so unpleasant to be around. So it's a really tough situation. Getting help, like I said, even the caretaker needs to take care of themselves as well, because they'll be in a very bad place as well if they just try to suffer through and do everything themselves. But like to go back to say, if you can catch it early, and even things like mild cognitive impairment, MCI, they call it, it's not dementia yet. And people that get MCI don't necessarily get dementia, but early, finding out early and then doing brain health things, even if you send them to a specialist or a doctor or a group program, can make it so it doesn't progress as fast, or maybe doesn't even progress really any farther. And it'll give the caregiver some peace of mind as well. They know they're doing something, and it maybe hopefully is helping make their life better as well. So making both the patient and the caregiver, the family members, both of their lives better.
Amazing. And that's really needed right now, where even the caregivers need some care out there. And as you rightly mentioned, just often a shoulder to cry on, just an ear who can listen to them. That's really important out there. Thanks a lot, Jeff, for accepting our invite to be on this podcast and sharing your in-depth knowledge with our listeners out here. Any final thoughts?
Really, I know it's work. Hard work takes time, can take money if you work with a personal trainer, if you don't know how to train, but getting strong, improving your balance, keeping your cognition as long as you can will all pay off down the road. I tell people we're not training for today. We're training for where are you going to be in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. So, I really encourage people to take care of their body. So many people that when I start training them and they're in their 70s and they're like, I wish I found you 20 years ago. How much better shape would I be in now? How much stronger would I be if I had been doing this all along or started earlier? So that's just kind of my advice is, do it for yourself, for your future self. You won't regret it in the future at all. The hard work will be a distant memory. Well, you need to keep it up, but you'll be thinking less about the hard work you put in and more about the benefits of reaping. Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to be able to climb the Great Wall of China? Do you want to go hiking with your friends? You want to go visit castles in Europe? Those steps are narrow and windy and hard, when you retire. It's like you want to be able to enjoy your retirement and the money you've saved. So make sure you invest in yourself, not just money for retirement, but then have to be in a wheelchair or in a bed because you didn't take care of your body. You only took care of your bank account. That's what I urge. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, they can send me an email. I just love to answer questions and be a resource. No strings attached. info@silverstrong.fitness. My website's www.silverstrong.fitness. Just reach out to me if you have any questions or want to know more.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Thanks a lot. And listeners, that's, I would say, piece of advice that we all should adhere to and follow in our life, even to the youth that's listening. And one more part, listeners, where we are working on a platform that's called We Are Listening Again by the name of the podcast itself. It's an anonymous mental health forum where you can come and vent out all your mental health stress, worries. It could be anything. And we are going to give you an unbiased ear that's listening to you. Thank you. And for any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out through a comment or DM. Thank you.